For the sports lovers out there who like to get their gamble on, whether it be on the NBA games, NFL, Major League Soccer, even National Hockey League, Major League Baseball, even college sports, go to BetUS.com to make that bet. If you use the promo code TKT for the Klown Times, you get up to 125% of the sign-up bonus, which is up to $2,500. Another perk you can see, you can bet on the go, which means you can bet anytime, anywhere on your mobile device. You get fast payouts, so you can get your payouts immediately every single time. Do not have to wait. And you can do live betting when you can bet during the game, whether it's early or the best lines, you can do it all. So anyway, please sign up for BetUS.com. Use the promo code TKT for the Klown Times. You'll be able to do so, right? Check out BetUS.com, where the game begins. Welcome to tonight's Monday Night's edition of the Klown Hour podcast. I'm Scott Burks. Please check me out on www.theklowntimes.net, as you see here. And speaking of which, get the merch, please. And
that merch.
CafePress.com, search for the Klown Time Sports. You can find the gear there as well. I sell hats, t-shirts, bibs. If you're familiar with CafePress.com, just you will know that as long as you have a logo or two, you can sell almost anything and get paid for. But anyway, sweatshirts, hoodies, you name it. So anyway, you name it. So go to cafepress.com, search the Klown Time Sports. The actual address link will be in the description below. You can find it there as well. Also, please continue to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And speaking of subscribing, I'm happy to announce that I've reached the over 400 subscribers.
Yeah.
So, again, thank you very much. I celebrate the small victories. I know that sounds hokey as hell, but I celebrate the small victories. I put out an appreciation video earlier today on social media, Facebook, both my Facebook and Twitter platforms, thanking everybody. So I want to push this to 1,000 subscribers by year's end. So I think I'm pretty much I'm far along in that goal. So anyway, please continue to like, comment, share, and subscribe. The YouTube logarithms are real. I appreciate it. Wayne appreciates it. Other guests appreciate it to spread their good content and what they do on the side. And you will like it too. And hit the bell button for notifications, get notifications when new cool videos, podcasts, opinion vlogs, whatever come out. All right, so you won't miss it. All right, so enough about my ass. Let's get to my guests here. Y'all know of who's my main man in action here. He covers all things HBCU athletics on the following platforms: the Yard/HBCU Sports, the rest about all things HBCU Sports. You see the actual address, web address on this backdrop there, the yardhbcu.com, where you can find him on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Speaking of Facebook, check him out on Sleazy Radio every Tuesday now on Facebook Live and YouTube. And last but not least, check out his great work. He's so hardworking, he makes James Brown scream. Go to herosports.com, where he writes about all things FCS athletics as they pertain to HBCU sports. Speaking of HBCU sports, let's jump right into it, man.
All right.
And this actually ties into HBCU athletics if you have an idea where we're going. I thought, man, look, college sports, particularly college football, what we all love here, it's a ho-hum summer, not much is going on.
Maybe for you, Scott.
I'm sorry?
Maybe for you.
Maybe
in the world of HBCU football, it has not died down yet. And I was looking to have some sort of breather during the spring so I can at least focus on outdoor track and field, because once again, North Carolina A&T is doing a wonderful job competing on a national level. Speaking of which, the outdoor track and field regional prelims are this week to see who qualifies to go to nationals. And as of recent years, A&T is looking to send several athletes, both on the men's and women's side there. But I can't seem to focus on that, because every time I turn around, it's something going on with HBCU athletics. They can't seem to keep our names out of their mouths.
And speaking of not keeping their names out of the mouth, that leads us to one Nick Saban. Man, yo, bro, let me share how it started out first. He was at this banquet. Y'all know what it is by now, unless you've been living on a freaking rock, right? It was an event, 50-day countdown event for the World Games, and somewhere in Alabama. I want to say it's outside of Alabama. But anyway, we all know that he and many others will get to them in the morning, i.e., Dabo Swinney has been bitching about name, image, and likeness. How has impacted the game? Wham. All right. So doing this event, again, in case you've been living under a rock, he went for the juggler. As far as what he did not like about NIL, he went first. He came for Texas A&M, and his former protege / well, I thought was a good friend, Jimbo Fisher, when he flatly accused the Aggies of buying their recruits through NIL deals. And I just get this quote. I wish I had the video. I wish I had the audio, but here's the quote. It's going to be difficult for the people who are spending tons of money to get players. You've read about them. You know who they are. We were second in career last year. A&M was first. Texas A&M was first. A&M bought every player on their team, made a deal for name, image, and likeness. We didn't buy one player. That's cap. But I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain that in the future because more and more people are doing it. End of quote. All right, that's what he said about his rivals. One of his rivals, Texas A&M, his former buddy, buddy turned now former buddy, Jimbo Fisher. We'll get to his reaction momentarily. But he didn't stop there.
No.
He could have stopped there. He didn't stop there. But because he ventures on to, which is why we're talking about this in the HBCU related segment, he brought one who I thought was also a good friend of his, Deion Sanders. Here's the quote. Jackson State paid a guy $1 million last year who was a really good Division I player. We know who he's talking about, right? We're talking about Travis to come to their school. It was in the paper, and they bragged about it, knowing that anything about it. End of quote. All right, here's the deal. And we all see Jimbo's reaction, called the man despicable, called him a narcissist a couple of times. He even went on to say when after he was approached by when the journalist asked him was he approached by Nick Saban to clear the air, he said, "Yeah, he tried to call. I ain't taking it. We're done." He went just straight scorched earth on him. Mockingly called him God. He said, "Yeah, but he's kind of God, right?" You know, I wish I had the exact quote. It's again, unless you've been living under a rock, you know what the man said. You know how scorched earth he got. You know he set those bridges aflame with gasoline drawers, everything on it. He just burnt the whole thing down, right? Calling as much as saying, "Go check his record." Which, if any other experienced journalist was on hand, he or she would ask, "Well, since you work from Jimbo, what do you know about it?" But no one did. I don't know if anyone did, or I don't know if someone did. They skipped it. He skipped it. I don't know. But the point is, this is a golden opportunity for Jimbo to go really scorched earth. So I like Deion's response. So Deion played it cool. He was actually the one who played it cool, and Jimbo had the ghetto fabulous response. When people don't do the other way around, white guy having the ghetto fabulous response. The brother man played it cool. He first he said before he cooled off a little bit. Let me get the exact quote here. I know you have it. I know you're going to mention it, and feel free to mention it. But he basically said, "You best believe I will address the lie Coach Saban told tomorrow. I was awakened by my son, Shadir Sanders, that sent me the article saying that we paid Travis Hunter $1 million to play at Jackson State. We as a people don't have to pay our people to play with our people." All right. So, Deion, like I said, Deion, unless you've been living under the fire, Deion actually calmed down, like in an interview with I Am Athlete on the I Am Athlete podcast. He basically just said his thing. He played it cool, and I actually like what the man had to say. He basically said, "Look, I'm not tripping. I know this is not really about Jimbo. I know it's not really about me. It's about Nick Saban going after those boosters, saying, you see what they're doing? Y'all better pony up if you don't want me to come in second or third. You see Jackson State on the spot? Y'all better come up and pony up." Now, I would say this. If we're talking, since it's not, this is talking NIL, which is where someone joked to me that says not illegal or something like that. But anyway, it's like basically he, I don't think he, being Saban, could compete with the Texas Oil. Now just wait till the Texas Longhorns
start, yeah,
because they got deep pockets too. I mean, we're between A&M and Texas Longhorns boosters. That's oil money.
Yeah,
that is deep pockets. You see what A&M's been doing on campus, the facilities. You see what they're doing, with everything else. Texas is not that far behind as well. Both schools are flush with cash. Nick Saban knows that Alabama itself cannot compete with that. It will not be able to compete with that. Now, the question is, how long could his coaching overcome that?
Mm-hmm.
You should say, the saying goes, like you can know all the X's and O's, but you got to get the Jimmy and Joes.
Yeah.
To go and work. So right now, A&M's getting Jimmy and Joes as well. And it's a matter of time before, Jimbo beat him last year in the regular season. And then we all know what happened in the national championship game. Another former assistant, Kirby Smart from Georgia, beat the hell out of him.
Yeah.
And they're not slowing down anytime soon. Georgia, and they're talking about Texas is flush with cash. Georgia, they got cash too. They're not far from Atlanta. They got deep pocketed alums, the boosters. It's just that I don't think Alabama, in and of itself, can keep up with those two schools. You know what I'm saying? And then, like I said, you got Texas coming in a couple of years. You got Oklahoma coming. That's more oil money. Come on, he knows it.
Oh yeah, he knows it.
He knows it. So in a clumsy, rather bitch ass attempt to throw the other two coaches under who were his friends under the bus to make his point, the point was made. It's like it's one more thing before I turn it over to you, man.
Mm-hmm.
This strikes as what Colin Cowherd once said. When people lash out, and I'm paraphrasing, it's because of out of jealousy, envy, or fear.
Mm-hmm.
Saban is the coaching GOAT regardless what happens to him going forward. So it's not jealousy. It is definitely not envy, but it's definitely fear. He's getting older. He doesn't want to be knocked off his perch. He sees Georgia coming already. Georgia just came and knocked his ass down.
Georgia here.
Yeah, Georgia's already here. A&M is coming. A&M is coming. And, I don't know what the hell they're doing in Auburn, but LSU hired a coach from like Brian Kelly, former Notre Dame, who's already building some real monster down there as well. He's already making some great inroads in recruiting. And they got money too. Yeah. So they're coming. So basically, to pull a line from my favorite line from The Wire, from my favorite character, Jimbo went at the king and he did not miss. He did not miss. Kirby Smart didn't miss. And look for Brian Kelly to do more of the same in the upcoming seasons. Because those guys are much younger than Saban. And they got something that they do not have, that's cash. But anyway, I'm going to get to other reactions momentarily. I want to get your reaction, because soon as Nick said what he said, and Deion Sanders, Coach Prime into it, I immediately thought about you. I immediately thought about my other fellow HBCU sports guys. I thought about all y'all, but particularly you, like because I rep you most weeks. So I'm done talking. The floor is yours.
Oh man, it seemed to me that at that symposium, Nick Saban was channeling one Michael Jackson during his Jackson 5 days. Basically being on stage singing, "Is this the end? Are you my friend?" Now, like you said, with what's been going on with Georgia recently and them losing to Georgia and losing the conference to Georgia, and of course Georgia subsequently becoming the national champs, and then man, like you said, with Texas A&M beating them, and then of course beating them in the recruitment wars with, and God, it's not like they pummeled them in the recruiting. Texas A&M was first, they were second.
Exactly. He made it sound as if that they are not down to 12th.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Right. But you know, I thought that's for another conversation for another time. But it was just weird. To your point, like you said, he attacked two people who we thought were friends of his in terms of former assistant of his, Jimbo Fisher, and then my man who you see dancing and prancing alongside him in these Aflac commercials over the past year, Deion Sanders, who Deion has, of course, referenced in several occasions in terms of him being respected as a head coach this past season. But yeah, I just thought it was weird that he named names. And of course, for everyone who has been following this saga that's been going on, the two things that we always harp on is, of course, the fact that he brought up the fact that he's losing in the recruitment wars, the fact that you know, he doesn't know if he's going to be capable of sustaining his current style of recruiting. And yes, like you said, I completely agree that he's an old dog, not willing to learn new tricks, and is hoping that, you know, his boosters will step in and step up so they can go ahead and continue to compete, if not surpass Texas A&M and potentially University of Texas coming into the SWAC, not the SWAC, I'm sorry, the SEAC in about a year or two, so they can continue, and also Georgia, so they can continue, so they can get back on their winning ways.
Right.
But the thing is, you can't make this plea and be a snitch.
Right.
This Bama came out and named names.
That's why I had a big problem. The way he had to drag other two who were friends of his.
Yeah.
I did not like that at all, but publicity. I just don't like that bitch ass.
But well, technically, it was 3 programs, because he also talked about the University of Miami's basketball program.
That's very true.
Who we have heard absolutely nothing from. Well, I haven't heard anything. Have you heard anything from University of Miami?
I hadn't heard anything from them. I hadn't heard anything from Mario Cristobal, the new head coach. But I think maybe he did say something no one knows about, but I think if he said something, someone would have cared it, because that's a good dude too. He looks like he could kick some ass still. He's on the wheel.
Somebody probably told him, "Hey man, don't even worry about it. That's Nick. That's old man being old man crazy." But it is. The biggest thing though that people tend to forget is that there's a whole paragraph in between the two that you read there, Scott, which actually he kind of has a point on, and because of the fact he snitched and named names, that kind of once again gets lost in the weeds. And that statement, of course, is so. If the NCAA doesn't get some protection from litigation, whether we're going to get an antitrust or whatever it is from the government, from a federal government standpoint, this is not going to change because they cannot enforce the rules. Right? And technically, again, if it's not against the law, the government can't come in and step in, and you know they're not hurting. Well, they're hurting feelings. And other than that, the NCAA is not going to step in unless it just becomes an issue completely across the board, which potentially it could be, though, Scott. Because one thing we did talk about a year ago, once NIL dropped, and again, if we're smart enough to see it, and now Nick Saban all of a sudden is smart enough to see this,
yeah,
is that, again, alumni bases that have a lot of money, or these teams that have corporate fans because they're potentially in media markets that are extremely large, and they can attach their name or their product onto an athlete in said large media market. And even more better if that team is a winning team in a large media market. Those are going to be the institutions in which these companies and corporations start attaching their deals in terms of NILs with those athletes.
right.
Because the question has to be asked, are these athletes getting deals because of who they are or who they play for? Now, in the early stages, it was basically, in the early stages, it was basically who they were, right? Now it's starting to lean towards who they play for. And, with the likes of Texas A&M, and it's not to say that Jimbo Fisher isn't a great recruiter and isn't a good coach, because he is.
Yes, he's all those.
But again, that alumni base there in Texas, as the University of Texas already knows, they got a lot of, and like you stated earlier, they got a lot of dough.
They do.
And what's
they
your boy
ain't slowing anytime soon.
No, they're not. And then your boy who's transferring from Pittsburgh to UCLA.
USC,
right?
Jordan Addison. He's a stud. He's a freaking stud, yo.
And
he's going to be playing on Sundays.
Oh, most definitely. Didn't he recently get a deal or something to that effect?
That's why he left Pitt to go to LA. Well, to USC, which is in LA. And apparently, Coach, I almost called him Patuzzi. Pitt's head coach, I don't have his name in front of me, but at any rate, he is said that he and USC coach Lee Cabrilli had very terse exchanges.
Probably
exchanges during that time. I don't know if there's tampering during that time. I don't know. Maybe Addison saw that this guy happened to be my Steelers' first round draft pick. He saw him get drafted. He said, well, who the hell's gonna throw me the ball? I don't know about these other guys. I'm not gonna stick. I only got one more year. I think he's a senior. So I don't think I don't know if I'm going to get the same production from these next quarterbacks. So he just looked around. He looked around like a female said, and found what Big Ron is doing in LA. And he saw that his quarterback, Caleb Williams, was I think his former classmate or in high school. I know they grew up together in Maryland. So yeah, Addison and Caleb Williams, they're literally home. So that going on here, in addition to NIL, I don't know. But I'll say this, man. I'll say this. You have to wonder, because when Nick Saban went and said that Alabama did it the right way, and I'm not disputing the merits. I don't know. I'll say this. When he said that we didn't use NIL to get players, I called cap early because like earlier, Bryce Young, his quarterback, is from where? LA.
Alabama. How much matter of fact, he celebrated the fact that Bryce got a 7-figure total in terms of NIL. And then again, right, you can't come out and make these claims and statements and then name names where one of the guys is one of your former assistants.
Right.
And then two, you're talking about a guy who's a head coach who at one point in time who was a pretty damn good football player himself, who was also a 5-star athlete that knows the tactics it takes to draw a 5-star athlete.
He said himself, he knows the bagman. He knows the bagman. He knows all about it.
Exactly, he's been there. Right? He's been there. Been there, done that. Knows it.
Yeah.
Shout out to my man, Brian Mitchell, who on Fridays basically said the University of Alabama's the football players' parking lot looks like an NFL parking lot, because there's a guy in Alabama that has connections to Dodge who have been giving, of course, I'm not gonna say he's been giving, somehow mysteriously the players at the University of Alabama allegedly have been getting these DARS vehicles given to them. Allegedly. I don't want to get you wrapped up in anything. So
I'll say this too. And now I'm just repeating the story of what Colin Cowherd said. He said he heard, like, he's friends with a lot of former college players and coaches that off the record would tell him stories.
Yeah.
About their recruitment.
Yeah.
And his favorite stories, and I say stories plural, of when some kids, they go to poker parties with boosters, and you know what they're told? And sometimes they take place at churches. And do you know what they tell those kids, allegedly?
What's that?
Whatever you do not fold.
Wow. Well, there you go.
As long as you don't fold, you'll get some money. You get the pot. Just don't, whatever you do not fold.
Wow. There, dude. Well, there you have it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So what all NIL is taking what used to be done under the table, above the table.
Yeah.
And I mentioned Bryce Young earlier when Nick Saban was going on, but he never used NIL to recruit, because how the hell did he get him from LA to Tuscaloosa, Alabama? And go Houseway, and also go a few years before to a Tagovailoa. How the hell did he get him, not only him, but his whole family, from Hawaii
to Alabama?
Skipping over LA, skipping over even, Oregon, to get from sunny, great weather throughout the year, beautiful women have in Hawaii, to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Come on, man. Come on. So again, I'm not alleging anything. I'm not saying anything that's been under the table. Let's just say I got questions.
Yeah.
Let's just say I've got questions. And let me because I think that, like I said, people lash out because they're out of envy, jealous, or fearful. And the reason why you hear, like I said, Saban, and I mentioned Dabo Swinney, referenced him earlier, and others out there, it's because they fear that they won't have control of who they can get. Like, how does Dabo recruit guys from Atlanta and even Alabama, his home state Alabama, to get them to Clemson? They say Clemson's nothing but Auburn University with a lake.
Yeah.
And if you've been to Auburn, you know they ain't shit down there, but that school. So how do you get
same thing with Clemson? The city of Clemson is named.
It's nothing. It's literally nothing there but the damn school in Clemson. Yeah. That's all there is in Clemson. How? So you got to ask your question. I know I'm not saying that, I'm not doubting Dabo's ability to coach. The man can coach. He can definitely, he's a hell of a motivator. But you have to wonder, how's he been able to do it? So again, NIL, all NIL is making all that legal shit legal.
Yeah.
And I just think that they fear that, and Nick Saban mentioned Miami for a reason too. He used to get guys from Miami. I think he got, forgot who. Not Julio Jones. No, Julio played for, he played for Alabama, didn't he? Yeah, Julio Jones? Okay. So I think some of those his wide receivers came from Miami. I think Jerry Judy came from Miami. Some of his studs came from the Miami area. So I think now that Cristobal is locking that down, and of course NIL in South Beach. Come on.
Exactly right.
Come on.
Exactly right. So I mean, again, I understand his fear, and I agree with him. The NCAA needs to do something about that. Oddly enough, Coach Prime said the same thing in terms of the NCAA needs to do something in order to kind of wrangle what's going on with these NIL deals. Yes, but but from a different angle.
Right.
In terms of how difficult it's going to be for especially not just small programs, well, not just HBCUs, but small programs as a whole. How it's going to be difficult to coach these guys up when these coaches could potentially be bringing in deals. Well, these coaches are going to be coaching guys who are potentially going to have deals, NIL deals, and make more money than their staff. How am I going to listen to you if I don't have respect for you because of the amount of money that I'm bringing in?
Exactly. And check this out too. They always follow up from Nick Saban's tirade, but there are a couple of things that we all can, well, not we all, but most of us can agree with and understand what Nick Saban's coming from, Coach Saban's coming from. And we touched on earlier, the NCAA enforcement, they're in a near impossible position to regulate this shit. I mean, we know that the NCAA does not have the subpoena power. They've been neutered, they've been effectively neutered by the Supreme Court, which led to NIL being introduced in the first place. I think that because if all enough, a conservative Supreme Court ruled in favor of the student athletes. So what can the NCAA do? I mean, Mark Emmert is already skipping town, the former director of the NCAA. They know that they're not going to do it. And because to Nick Saban's point, and to Coach Prom's point, and to Jimbo Fisher's point, because like I said, Jimbo agreed with it. Okay, without throwing him under the bus. It's pretty much like NIL without enforcement will endanger college sports because of what you said earlier. Because of what about the colleges in Maine and like the bigger metropolitan areas? What about the schools that have deep connections to deep pockets? Texas A&M, University of Texas, University of Miami, Notre Dame, SC, potentially UCLA. You know what I'm saying? Like schools in major media markets.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? Because it's slowly starting to follow a pattern of pro sports where it's going to end up becoming a big market versus small market. And will these small market programs be capable of competing? And the only way I see small market programs, now let me go ahead and say that I'm coining that phrase now. We haven't heard it said anywhere before because there was no need to coin the phrase small market program because there was no such thing. But now it'll probably start to will become that, right? The only way that these programs that are in smaller cities with small alumni bases will be able to compete is by having the perfect pairing, which is you got to win.
Right.
You got to win.
Right.
And you got to have a head coach on your staff that everyone knows basically has an association to a pro sport. Right. And we already know that there's several HBCUs that have that primarily within the SWAC. Primarily one Deion Sanders. Because let's be real here, Scott. Jackson, Mississippi, that media market is Basuda.
You see the zero, right? Because it's so small. Right? Yeah.
It's damn near horrible.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think they have to go to another. I'm trying to remember. I could be wrong. They might have to go to a neighboring city in order for them to. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to touch that. But either way, the city of Jackson, Mississippi, that media market is a very low one. But because they have what I've already done before as a unicorn in Deion Sanders, name me another college football team that has a pro football Hall of Famer as their head coach. I'll wait.
Right.
Especially one that is as well known and boisterous as Deion Sanders. Again, I'll wait. It's going to be hard to have that combination, but you have it at Jackson. You had that combination at Grambling, even though they kind of stumbled last year. They're bringing in Hugh Jackson with NFL ties that is looking to get this team back on track. So you have those two programs, again, two small programs.
And Tennessee State too. With
Tennessee State.
with Eddie George and
with
Nashville.
Eddie George.
And there's another area where you got deep-pocketed folks in Nashville.
Deep-pocketed folks. Deep-pocketed folks has connections, and they're in a top 50 media market.
That's correct.
So those three places will be ideal places for these student athletes to under this theory, right? To potentially go and shine with NILs. But how does this necessarily benefit other D1 programs, other HBCU D1 programs, like your Delaware States, like your Mississippi Valley States? So yeah, this is going to be a thing that's going to end up, hell, not even just them. It's going to end up hurting those teams within the MAC, those other those Group of Five programs, you know, that aren't in big media markets, and also once again aren't winning, and people outside of that region don't necessarily know about, so they won't have the big case to throw at them. But other power conference programs in those states will. So at some point in time, the NCAA is going to have to do something, or the conferences are going to have to do something to step in and regulate this thing, because if they don't, it's going to be a battle of the haves and have-nots. And it's just interesting just because Barstool Sports was willing to help out. I shouldn't say help out. Barstool Sports gave a player that just happened to go to an HBCU that has a connection with Deion Sanders, an NIL deal with 7 figures. It's not going to be a thing that's going to be a rampant situation, one with Jackson State and then 2 with HBCUs. And then let's be real, 1, Deion don't make $1 million. And 2, even though he has that deal, okay, his mama's still living in a 3-bedroom house with 5 kids.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's right now at this very moment shining because of that NIL deal.
Right.
So, and I understand again, Nick, that was your point to kind of bring out these examples, but you could have done the same thing without naming names. Right. And it wouldn't have been an issue. Everyone would have focused more on your point. But that point got lost.
It got lost in the sauce big fucking time. Yeah, it really did.
All because you snitched.
Let me share this article right quick. Basically, going back to Nick Saban's claim of parity, loss of parity. I mean, it's like, when the hell did you care about parity before, right? During these 7. Well, at Alabama, I think he won 6 at Alabama. He won 1 at LSU.
He never cared about it. He didn't give a damn.
He never gave 2 damns about it until now, right? So, interestingly enough, at TuscaloosaNews.com, there's an article written by Blake, I probably butchered his last name, Topmeyer, Toppmeyer. He's part of the USA Today network. The title of the article is, "No wonder Alabama coach Nick Saban will miss the parity that college football long enjoyed." And this, I want to spin it on this one paragraph, the second paragraph. It says, quote, "A sign of the sport's parity," Saban said, "is that all FBS programs are permitted to award up to 85 scholarships. But many have wondered how the Alabama coach could think this sport enjoys parity when SEC teams have won 12 of the past 16 national championships, including 6 titles by Saban's Crimson Tide."
Exactly right.
Yeah. So basically, what Blake said, what we've been saying, what others have been saying since Saban made that remark, it's just missed me with that bullshit. Missed me.
Exactly right.
Missed me.
Now it's interesting you bring that up, because I've tried to explain that point to other people, and kind of, I guess, got missed maybe because of my explanation. But try to follow me here on this, Scott.
Oh yeah.
If you think about it, on each level, there's a certain amount of scholarships that are given out per team, right?
Correct. Yes.
So it's kind of like a salary cap, and everyone has that same salary cap, not in terms of dollars per se, but in terms of how many scholarships they can give out. And just like in pro sports, it's how you manage that scholarship and who you give those scholarships, or who you give those monies to, or in this case, scholarships to come and compete for you. Because just because you got the money doesn't necessarily mean that you give that money to the most talented. But if the most talented are willing to come to you and not to other programs, those other programs are left out there to fight for the scraps.
Right.
And yes, if you have a larger donor base, like we talked about before, and if you're winning, like Alabama, and and if you have better facilities, and if you're on TV all the time, and you're within a Power 5 conference, yes, those are going to be the schools that the top talented athletes are going to want to go to. So yeah, there was never any parity in Division I athletics. It's not even parity on those individual levels in terms of FBS and FCS.
Right.
You had the haves in the Power 5s, and now you had in the have-nots in the Group of 5s, and now it's getting to the point, even with the haves, they're going to start becoming elites in those, and then it's going to start being also rans within and there already are also rans in the Power 5s right now.
Oh, correct. Oh, yeah, of course.
Paging University of Maryland and paging Rutgers University in football, and paging Vanderbilt. So yes, there are already programs in Power 5 conferences
Duke University.
Exactly, right? So yeah, these schools, these programs already exist. Now, what Nick Saban is afraid of is he might end up becoming Vanderbilt soon. He don't want that. He don't want that because he knows it's like to go and face. He already knows when he sees Vandy on the schedule, that's a dub. Mm-hmm. He don't want to be that Vandy. Right. And he's trying to do whatever he can to stop it. And he's trying to. Have you ever seen a little kid get beat down in the neighborhood, and that little Bama's calling on everybody to help him out, including God? That's almost what Nick Saban is doing right now. He calling on Mama. He calling on the NCAA. He calling on, you know what I'm saying? He calling on Daddy. He calling on the donors that get to the University of Alabama. He calling on everybody to come stop this beating that he about to get. And hopefully somebody come out there and help him. Because if it don't, in a couple of seasons, it might get ugly for him.
Dude, it's something else. Again, I'll say this, man. I know we're hopping around, but despite Nick Saban being a bitch ass in his approach, I'm just being real about it. He makes a good point about that because you said it. As if we don't have the all the haves and have-nots. That's where I have the Power 5 and the Group of 5. That's exactly the haves and have-nots. But that gap, that crater is going, that chasm is going to grow wider, even amongst the Power 5.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's just put it this way. Remember I said that when he called upon the NCAA to regulate this, he and Sweeney and a few others, that's not going to happen. We all know that's not going to happen, right? Because again, the NCAA they've been neutered by the Supreme Court. If the NCAA tries to do anything about it, there are going to be some deep-pocketed universities that are going to say, "Oh fuck," and that's going to lead us to this. And Gene Smith, the AD at Ohio State, kind of alluded to it when he said that, when he said that maybe the schools and the conference should take the lead on this. That's going to lead to them breaking away from the NCAA. It's been long been rumored because the money is too much. And for college football, major college football, the FBS level is the only entity that's not regulated by the NCAA. The NCAA regulates baseball, they regulate basketball, March Madness, men and women. They regulate lacrosse, soccer, all the Olympic sports, track and field. They don't regulate football. That's an ESPN problem. The college football playoff is the ESPN problem. The ESPN sets all the bowls. If you want to extrapolate it, I know the NCAA does govern FCS. They set the playoffs and everything. But guess who has
everybody down? FCS down is regulated by the NCAA.
FCS divisions 2 and 3. But guess who runs the Celebration Bowl? ESPN.
ESPN, yeah.
So again, major college football and the Celebration Bowl are all regulated by who? The college football playoff who's regulated by who again? ESPN.
Mickey Mouse. Yeah.
Mickey Mouse, Disney. So That's why it's going to happen. It's the inevitable. And the thing is that even this includes even teams programs from the Group of 5 can go with them.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be working together with the Power 5 for scheduling purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they're going to have to bring them along. But then I'll take it a step even further than that. That's probably going to be a time where, okay, amongst the Power 5 and Group 5, okay, who wants to come join us with this big boy football here? With the deeper pockets. Honor amongst these, no major rules. Who's down? Miami, Ohio State, Clemson, Michigan, NC State, Carolina, Alabama, SC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, you name it. Texas, Oklahoma, the big boys, amongst the big boys. They're going to form their own league. They're going to leave the Syracuse's behind, the Wake Forest and Duke's behind, the Vanderbilt's behind, the Missouri's behind, Stanford's behind. They're going to leave all those cats. And you know what, though? I'm going to throw this wrinkle in.
Okay.
Nick, and when I said Nick Saban did not mention those schools, he mentioned those schools for a reason. He didn't do it by accident.
Mm-hmm.
What if he looks at, which means I think he looks at Jackson State more and more as a potential peer. Why would he get upset? Why would he throw Deion Sanders' name in the hat?
The only reason why the reason why I believe he did that was because of the exuberant amount of money. Matter of fact, you could tell by what he said in his statement. Mm-hmm. It was the amount of money thrown at a kid that is D1 level. I'm sorry, that is FBS talent, and convinced him to come to an FCS program.
Right.
That was the reason why he brought them out, because he's, I guess, in essence, kind of afraid that more smaller programs would do that. But the thing is, they won't be able to do it at an abundance, and it won't happen at that $1 million rate for all of those kids, because they don't have the boosters or the connections at this very moment to do so.
Right.
And Jackson State, even with them being able to do it, only did it with one guy. Let's be real, they only did it with one guy. Okay, great. It happened.
And then he got a wide receiver too.
Yes.
Yeah.
My God, it's to me, it's again, it goes back to what you said, him being afraid to not want to do it, and then trying to get the boosters involved, and at the same time, patting down these kids' pockets. That's their money. Why are you mad at the money that they making?
And can we be real about something else? I didn't want to take it here there, but damn it, I don't care. You know.
I know you don't care, man.
Can we be real that, like, college football, as we know, big time, big money college football, as we know it, has been made on the backs of a lot of these black kids who could have been HBCUs.
Most definitely.
Let's just be real about it. And so it's as if, and not just, I don't think Nick Saban portrayed it as much, but other coaches have. Other media people have, like, especially during Travis Hunter's recruitment, when he made this announcement. It's like, God forbid, HBCUs couldn't have nice things. God forbid they consider them as a place of education, which I would put anyone's HBCU diploma against anyone these PWIs. I would put my experience at A&T as a graduate student. I would put your degree. I would put my wife's degree from Spelman. I would put my brother's degree from Winston State. I would put one of my favorite cousins' degree from FAMU against everybody else's. So, I mean, God forbid we could offer these kids this thing. And one more thing before I get off my little soapbox. Because again, I've been looking forward to wrap up with you ever since the Nick Saban news dropped. Remember this guy named Kevon, is it Thibodeau? I think his last
name. Kevon Thibodeau. He was looking at Florida A&M as a potential landing point and ended up in Oregon.
Yes. And he was the guy he was talking to, he's a Morehouse alum. I forget his name, but he was on Brother from Another podcast. Shout out to them.
Okay.
But he basically said.
Was it, God, it's not Riddick. What is his name?
Yeah, let me look him up because I got the. Oh damn! Hold on for a second. I'm on YouTube now. I'm going to Brother to Peacock's Brother from Another. Okay, I'm going there and the videos. Of course, I can't find. I had it teed up not too long ago. I'm looking at him right now. I can't pull it up, but anyway, the point being is that he talked to him, and he basically said that Kevon said that and he came out and just unsolicited said this for these kids, black kids in particular, these 3 stars who've been overlooked by the Power Fives and some 5 schools to strongly consider, well, not Group 5, but a lot of bigger Power 5 schools to consider coming to the HBCU because one thing he did, he said that he really dug the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And he appreciated it for what it was. It's just, again, he chose Oregon.
Of course. Now, let me guess. Was the gentleman's name Justin Tinsley?
No, it's not him.
It wasn't Justin Tinsley?
Okay.
Okay.
I can't find his name anywhere, but anyway. But if you were to see him on Brother from Another podcast, you would say, oh, okay. Gotcha. So, yeah. But yeah, so I found that. So again, Brandon Marshall said this on I Am Athlete like a year or two ago, when more of these kids were considering HBCU, starting to consider HBCU, the Don Makers brothers, like we chose Howard. He said then he's going to predict the shift because, and now of course with things that happened under Trump's presidency, with all the chaos, especially with this pertained to George Floyd's murder, more and more kids are coming home.
Yeah, but I will say this though, right? Our little scrap up on Twitter aside, one of the things that I did agree with Bomani Jones was that I don't see this as being a long-standing situation where these top-tier athletes in droves are going to start coming to HBCUs. And I truly believe that the NIL will be one of those factors that slows that down a little bit more. Right. But even still, it goes back to that point. Even if we as HBCUs are capable of using NIL deals to attract these student athletes, so be it, man. God, Jackson State just got a pair of Louboutins. Nick Saban over in Alabama got him a whole closet of Fendi, Chanel, Gucci, and complaining about our one pair of shoes.
That's a good way to put it. That's a great example.
God, man, we can't have one nice thing, man.
Right.
Not a one.
That's a great point.
And that's a program.
That's an awesome point. Yeah.
And this is Jackson State, who is looking to get back to prominence.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yes, they just recently won their conference, but they didn't win the Celebration Bowl. They're still looking to do that. You know what I'm saying? And he's worried about one guy going to an HBCU. Come on, man. Let it go.
Right.
But again, I just blame that on him being an old man, not knowing necessarily how to phrase that thing. And he did it wrong by including names and institutions in his wrong pattern of calling things out.
And I'll say one last thing because I think we're beating this dead horse to death. But nevertheless, it's a great.
The only way to kick something that's down if it's close by your feet. Why not? It's already right there. It's easy.
There you go. The carcass is staying right there with the flies buzzing out.
Exactly.
But I'll say this in Nick Saban's defense, believe it or not, I'm gonna say this in his defense. He thought that he thought it was at a closed event. He didn't think there'll be cameras. But people don't realize we got these. And especially if he says something, if he starts going off on the rails, they got these babies right here. They hit the record button, and that's what happened to him.
His name is Nick Saban.
Right.
Does he believe that anything he says and or does in public is going to be closed, especially if you're not asking for recording devices to be taken away? No, I'm gonna record you because you're Nick freaking Sabans. You're Nick freaking Sabans. People are going to record everything you say because there's going to be a potential of you saying something crazy. And you know what? Congratulations, you did it, Bama. You did it. You know, I could probably get away with doing some stuff like that unless there was somebody in the audience who was hating on me and looking to be like, I'm waiting to catch D Nash say something crazy. Aha, I got him.
Hey,
because
he would be that commenter, lying ass nigga.
Exactly, right? Because we all know, if you know me, you hang around me long enough, there's going to be a chance of me saying something crazy. But I digress. Dude, you know better.
Yeah.
You can't come out here acting like ain't nobody going to record me because I'm supposed to be in a private setting. Nah, Bam, you Nick Saban. I'm going to need you to be a whole lot better than that. But again, that's a privileged attitude there to think that no one was going to record you, even though you are who you believe that you are, dude. Stop playing.
All right, let's get you out here on this, brother. Any other news? You shared some news earlier regarding what's been going on in HBCU sports that before this whole Nick Saban thing took on a life of its own. What else is going on in the HBCU sports?
Quickly, of course, like I just said, this week will be the NCAA prelims for outdoor track and field for both D1 and D2. There's several HBCU athletes that are going to be competing in all four prelims. The reason why I say it's four is because they do them by regions in NCAA, 2 regions for both levels, 4 regions, HBCUs in all 4. So good luck to all of those athletes to hopefully get a chance to compete for a national championship, either in their individual sport or if you have enough representatives, i.e. North Carolina A&T, potentially your team can compete for a national championship as well. So good luck to those athletes. Hopefully on my Instagram with my man, T, the track guy, your frat brother that crossed over at St. Augustine's College in Raleigh, North Carolina. Hopefully we can go ahead and get him on my IG account before the end of this week so we can discuss why this is going to be such a pivotal event going on this upcoming week. Also, a few other things that we kind of missed over the past few weeks. Oddly enough, on the last time I made an appearance on your show, Scott, there was something big going on. And that was Delaware State's lacrosse team was being profiled by Georgia State troopers.
Yeah, I heard about that shit, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, I'm not going to belabor this. I'm not going to go too deep into this because, of course, it's been dragged over the coals ever since the event actually happened, oddly enough, on 420. You don't pull these kids over on 420, Scott, looking for weed.
Yeah.
But I digress. But, you know, thank you to Delaware State, who most definitely filed a formal complaint with the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division regarding the matter, so they can go ahead and do what they need to do, so they can go ahead and have them a Delaware State University down there in Georgia. Also, things that happened in the world of HBCU athletics. Congratulations to Edward Waters University for winning the 2022 HBCU Baseball National Championship.
Oh, wow.
Now, I have to go ahead and frame this correctly. Because what they do is they have what is called the Tyson Foods Black College Baseball World Series, which basically is comprised of 8 HBCU baseball teams, on the Division I and NAIA level. This year's participants were Albany State, Bluefield State, Kentucky State, Florida Memorial, Miles, Russ, Talladega, and of course the eventual champion, Edward Waters. So shout out to the Tigers down there in Jacksonville for winning that championship. And then I got to touch on this one, Scott, because I actually dragged you in because I had a PTSD moment last week. Now, for those who follow HBCU athletics, especially on social media, there was a huge dust-up following a couple of articles that was released in the Players Tribune, one by Darius Leonard, of course, from South Carolina State, now playing with the Indianapolis Colts, and the other by Tariq Cohen, North Carolina A&T alum, who is currently a free agent, and unfortunately just had a nasty injury. That happened on IG Live while he was working out. But both players wrote a letter to a younger version of themselves, and I go ahead and I implore everyone to go and check those write-outs up. But of course, as we tend to do as HBCU alums, we tend to brag on, our athletes. And of course, there was some statements made saying that basically Tariq Cohen and North Carolina A&T should be given their roses for the hand in which they played in terms of bringing prominence to HBCU athletics. And it apparently a dust-up happened between alums of Jackson State and North Carolina A&T. Now, let's be clear here. When you go throughout time, I know, right? When you go throughout time, there's going to be a big dog in HBCU athletics. Be it Grambling, they had their stretch run for a lot of time there. Florida A&M was dominant as an institution. Winston-Salem State was dominant there for a time. Virginia Union in terms of men's basketball and CIAA was dominant for a time. And North Carolina A&T in recent years has been a dominant program. Now it's Jackson State's turn to step up, especially with what they've been doing as it pertains to football. And it kind of aids them that they do have, again, like I said before, the unicorn on their side, helping them garner this attention. Again, with these type of discussions, I have to say there's been a lot of misinformation thrown around on both sides. And I got to go ahead and quote the homie, Stephen Gaither, of course, of HBCU Game Day, where he put out this tweet because, of course, he, like me, got tired of all of this, one, hate, and two, misinformation thrown out there. He says, and I quote, "Most folks' HBCU knowledge is regional," which is correct. Right. Some folks down south know nothing about some of the schools in the CIAA or MEAC, which again is absolutely true based upon some of the remarks that I saw on social media. That loud and wrong is definitely not limited to the East Coast. Again, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. There have been times in which I too have been loud and wrong, but I've seen a lot of
the commenters like to say that.
I've seen a lot of commenters say a lot of loud and wrong things too. So let's go ahead and just agree with the fact that there are a lot of things that we don't know about one another, and we need to go ahead and take this time instead of sitting out here fighting over who got the most shine. Right. Really? Is that what we're arguing about? Who getting the most attention, Bucks?
Like, who gives a damn in the end, right? I mean,
I know, right? But my thing is this. Okay, cool. Should be taking this time to learn about one another. But if we're going to sit here and argue about, who has more prominence, let me go ahead and do this here.
Uh-oh. Turn your head backwards.
I was trying to be calm. I was trying to be calm this entire podcast today. But me turning my head around is me no longer the HBCU analyst. This is B Nash, the A&T alum here. Okay. Jackson State fans, if y'all are worried about shine and y'all are worried about all this attention, to quote my man Super Dave Osborne, Super Dave Osborne, sorry. I'm always, whenever I think about Super Dave, I always think about Super Dave Osborne, the comedian. But shout out to my man Dave Horton, also goes by the nickname of Super Dave, 90s Aggie out there. He put a tweet out there, and I told him I would snatch that tweet from him and also give him credit for it. That tweet being, Never be cocky, just be consistent. Jackson State, you won't come out here and talk and be cocky and be arrogant about this. I'm gonna need you to also be consistent in this situation too here, right? And not just be consistent in beating teams within your conference. Beat teams outside of your conference too, because that was another arguing point that came up too, was the fact that the SWAC as a whole loves to brag about their accomplishments, when in recent years, y'all talking loud and ain't saying nothing outside of your conference. Y'all love to beat up on yourselves. Y'all can't beat up on nobody. A
certain Twitter exchange you've had recently. We won't get into all that, but hey.
No, I'm getting into it.
That's quick. Another 40 minutes though.
No, I'm just going to touch on this for 2 minutes. Just real quick.
Okay.
My thing is this. You want to talk about your accomplishments? I'm going to need you to beat somebody outside your conference. Now, if you've already been following what I put up in social media last week, we already know that the SWAC has, and I said on this show before, the SWAC has not beaten an FBS opponent since 1985. Right? That's number one. Number two, dating back to 2016. Dating back to 2016, at best, the SWAC has a 27% win percentage against FCS opponents outside of their conference.
Is that a number again?
At best, a 27% win percentage, which equates to about 16 wins. Here, let me go ahead and help you out with something here, right? In terms of OOC wins in the FCS level, since 2017, Jackson State has 2. You know how many A&T has? 7. How many Celebration Bowl wins has Jackson State had during that time frame? I know you guys know exactly how many wins A&T has had during the Celebration Bowl. And then again, if we're still talking about greatness, we can talk about other sports too. Now, congratulations to Jackson State and their women's basketball team, with the greatness that they've had over the past 2 years. A&T's women's basketball team went to the NCAA tournament in 2021. You know what else A&T's been doing too? Competing for national championships in track and field. They won a national championship in bowling. I'm not talking about black college championship. I'm saying national championship. Oh, yeah, something else here too, as it pertains to
You're just calling everybody on the phone. You're doing a Nick Saban. You're doing a Nick Saban right now. You're getting everybody. You're lining everybody up.
Yes, I'm lining everybody up. So again, to my point about HBCUs against the FBS opponents, there have only been 5 FCS HBCUs to beat an FBS opponent, dating back to 2016. Only 5 have beaten an FBS opponent. I'm sorry, there have only been 5 games, where an HBCU, FCS HBCU has beaten an FBS opponent. A&T was 3 of those games. A&T was 3. Can you name how many of those other 2 wins were from a SWAC school, Scott? I can tell you. It was none.
That's why I can't tell you.
That's why he can't tell you, because it was none. So when the question comes out about whether or not winning outside of your conference means something, yes, it does when you're talking about being great. Because it's cool and all to beat everybody within your conference. But if you're talking about being great, you got to win outside your conference too. So again, don't come from our institution. If you're going to be cocky, be consistent. Hell, get on that consistent track first before you even start talking about how cocky, how much attention you guys got. Again, that's nice that you're winning in the SWAC. Dude, since 2015, we're undefeated against the SWAC. Just a reminder for A&T there. So, yes, again, I implore everyone to take the time to learn about all HBCUs before you go ahead and say anything greasy. Because if you do, greasy come back at you. So.
And on that note, that's how we go to close the show.
Try not to be a fan of my coverage, Scott.
There you go.
But when people call my name out by institution, then institution come. I'll be fair. I'm fair to everyone. I've said negative things about A&T and will continue to do so. But when you question our greatness, especially in recent years, we're not even going to talk about the fact that A&T still has the most MEAC champions, men's basketball champions. I feel like the Boston Celtics are the MEAC, but I digress. That's another conversation for another time here. I told you I wasn't going to belong this and believe and make this more than what it is. No, I'm not. But yes, I try to be fair to everybody. But when you call out my institution by name to me, that boy coming. Just know that. But I'm always nice to everybody. I love everybody. I do.
Yo, check out this man. Check out this man on the HBCU.com. And where can they find you on Twitter?
On Twitter. Matter of fact, you can find me on all social media.
Yes.
At the same address, at the Yard HBCU, all one word.
Right on. So I'm sure they're gonna come at you again. I know you don't care. I know you want all the smoke. I'm right there with you, brother. I see you squinting your eyes. I know what it is. I know what it is.
Like Cypress Hill, I like to smoke.
It is what it is, brother.
Like Snoop Dogg, I'll take the smoke.
Sleazy Radio every Tuesday on Facebook Live and YouTube. And last but not least, herosports.com, where you see all his great work there, discussing FCS and athletics as they pertain to HBCU sports. Please continue to subscribe, like, comment, share. I said all out of order, but it means the same thing. Hit the bell buttons to get notifications, to subscribe to actually when new content is being uploaded to the channel. Please also support the channel by going to www.theklowntimes.net. Go to cafepress.com to get some merch. All the links I mentioned in this podcast will be in the description when I upload this baby to YouTube. So please thank you for your support, your continued support. Thank you for your continued support. I can't talk right now. To Dwayne Nash's great work. Until next time, until we start some more shit on Twitter, we out here.